Hello friends, this is Dr. Banerjee from History series. This is the first chapter of Unit 1, Renaissance in Europe and Development of Science. Although I have made two videos on Renaissance and Industrial Revolution, the two important topics of the first chapter for class 12 Maharashtra State Board. But what I have found that there are many more key points in this chapter. So I should discuss with all the points of this chapter, Renaissance in Europe and Development of Science. Few key points of the chapter: European crusades and its far-reaching consequences, Renaissance period in Europe, development of science, scientific inventions in various fields, geographic discoveries and explorers, industrial revolution in economic nationalism. So first and the important part of this chapter is European crusades. The crusades were a series of religious wars initiated, supported and sometimes directed by the Latin Church. The Latin Church, also known as the Western Church or the Roman Catholic Church, in the medieval period. Medieval period in Europe was nearing its end. So it saw advances in various fields of life. Europeans discovered unknown lands and there were movements of religious reformation. The foundation of the modern period were laid in this period. Hence, this period is called Renaissance, which means rebirth. Ancient Greek and Roman traditions of art, architecture, philosophy, etc. were revived. Renaissance is not only the revival of ancient traditions, Renaissance also saw overall development in many fields. And so, it proved to be the beginning of a new era. First, I can discuss about the crusades and its impacts. Jerusalem and Bethlehem are the two cities which are considered holy places by the Jews, Christians and Muslims. These two places are equally important for these three religions. These cities were under Islamic rule in the 11th century. Several wars were fought by the Christians in Europe in 11th century to regain hold on these cities. And these wars are known as crusades. Pope, the highest authority of the Catholic Church, had announced that those who fought in a crusade would be forgiven for their sins and would immediately go to heaven. This led to spontaneous participation by common people in the crusades. This Pope culture still exists, and in today's date, Pope Francis, whose full name is Giorgio Mario Bergoglio, he is the head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City-State. Besides, the social, political circumstances in Europe were also among the causes for the beginning of these wars. Roman emperors were trying to bring the regions of Syria and Asia Minor under their control. Rich merchants in Venice and Genoa, the two trading centers in Italy, wanted to establish their trade in the Central Asian marketplaces. Thus, the Crusades were supported by the rulers and rich traders in their own interest. So, although the Crusades are known as religious wars, but these wars were not fought only by the religious people, but the church had asked the common people to participate in the wars. Roman emperors were trying to capture few places, so they were having their own interest, and at the same time rich merchants in Venice and Genoa, they were also fighting crusades for their own interest. The first crusade started in 1096 Common Era. In the course of time, totally 9 crusades were launched. Despite the crusades, Jerusalem and the region around it remained under the control of Islamic rule. There are many causes of the failure of the Crusaders in this period. The failure of the Christian Crusaders can be attributed to the attitude of the Pope and the European rulers who initiated the Crusades mainly for their own vested interest. Besides, the other factors like common people losing faith in this war, rift between the Pope and the European kings, dispute between the Pope and the German Emperor, non-cooperation by the Emperor of the Byzantium also caused the failure of the Crusades. So the Crusades led to the end of feudalism in Europe. The faith in the Pope began to decline. The contact with the regions in Central Asia led to the increased trade, and the new avenues were opened for the cities in Italy and Germany. It saw the rise of a new class of traders. So the focus in society had been shifted from feudalism to the traders or business. The European warfare went through many changes. European nations acquired expertise in building forts, managing the forts as military outposts. European kings levied new taxes which were directly added to the royal treasury. Europeans were introduced to newer types of plants, fruits, perfumes, different styles of clothing, sugar, silk and cotton textiles, spices, medicinal herbs, and so on. During the prolonged times of Crusades, Europeans came into contact with the Arabs and got introduced to several new subjects. Europeans adopted many Arabic words also, like alchemy. They also came to know about the music and commerce. The European Renaissance began in the 14th century Common Era and reached its zenith in the 15th and 16th century Common Era. So these 3 centuries proved to be foundational stage of a culture based on rationalism and science. In the pre-Renaissance times, the thought about the existence of the universe revolved around the concept of God. Now the humans formed the center of this thought. And this new way of thinking is called humanism. I had already explained in detail in my last video about the Renaissance and its impact. During the period of Renaissance, many people began to write poetry, drama, and fiction, a field that had remained untouched so far. Novel experiments were conducted in the field of science. The European rulers of the Renaissance period encouraged adventurous seafarers to explore distant lands. They brought back information about the plants, fruits, flowers, trees, unknown species of animals, weaponry, etc. from the distant lands they visited. In 1543 Common Era, Nicolaus Copernicus told the world that the center of our planetary system is the sun and not the earth. In 1609, Galileo prepared a more sophisticated telescope which enabled further research in the field of astronomy. The theories propounded by Copernicus and Kepler could be supported by the empirical observations made possible by Galileo's telescope. This facilitated research in the field of physical sciences. Thus, we found the modern science and scientific developments were happened in this period. The inventions of gunpowder and the printing brought about the fundamental changes in the techniques of warfare and the dissemination of knowledge. The first printing press in Germany was started in 1440 by Johannes Gutenberg. The first printing press in Italy started in 1451. The invention of printing has been an outstanding gift of the Renaissance period. New avenues opened to extend varied information and knowledge to common people. A number of modern universities came into existence in Europe in the 18th century. The syllabi in this university included subjects like the epics, Iliad and Odyssey written by Homer, Greek drama, speeches of great orators, literature, painting, sculpture, ethics, political science, and history. As a result of these, people began to think freely. So, in arts and architecture, also we found new famous paintings and other inventions. During Renaissance, the scientific approach influenced the field of arts as well. In this period, alchemy began to separate from its mystical roots and later transformed into the scientific discipline of chemistry. The advancement of chemistry expanded the knowledge of the sources of metals and elements. A significant change was introduced in the field of paintings. Oil paints and boards painted by using oil paints were made. The scientific method of observation of nature made it possible to paint the natural scenes with minute details. With the same method, detailed diagrams of the human body and its internal organs could be drawn. The work of Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo is quite significant in this regard. In the same fashion, we had found there were many new inventions happened in the textile industry, Spinning mule and power loom were a few names among those inventions. Various instruments like compass, telescope, thermometer and barometer were invented in this period. Microscopes invented in this period made it easier to observe various types of microorganisms. England had a number of iron mines, but it was necessary to advance the technique of smelting iron in order to acquire purified iron from it. Gradually, the fuel for iron furnaces was replaced from wood to coal. It facilitated creation of furnaces that could attain much higher temperature, resulting into increased production of iron. Later, special machines were made to keep the furnaces burning at a set temperature and to maintain its aeration. In 1865, the process of producing steel from molten iron was invented, and the nature of iron industry underwent major transformation. At the same time, a method was developed to pour the molten metal into cast for making iron bars, for example, rails. In the same way, steam power had taken place. The steam engine by James Watt was an important invention. Then the geographic discoveries and the explorers were an important event of the period of Renaissance. Geographic discoveries and explorers. Marco Polo, the Italian traveler, introduced China and other Asian countries to Europe. He stayed in China in the royal court of Kublai Khan, and there he studied Mongolian and Chinese languages. Ibn Battuta was a scholar and famous medieval traveler. Ibn Battuta visited India, Maldives, Sumatra, China, Spain, Sardinia, East and West Africa for various reasons. Henry the Navigator. He was the Prince of Portugal in the 15th century, and he encouraged people to go on expeditions and search for lands which were not known till then. These expeditions resulted into the discovery of Madeira and Azores, two archipelagos near Africa. In the same way, Bartholomew Dias began his expedition on the orders of the King of Portugal, John II. One famous person was Christopher Columbus. In the year of 1453, Istanbul, which was also called Constantinople, the capital city of the Eastern Roman Empire, was conquered by the Ottoman army. Thereafter, it became the capital of the Ottoman Empire. Now, the Eastern Sea route was closed for Europeans, so it had become necessary for them to search for an alternative route to reach Asia. With the support of the King Ferdinand and Queen Isabel of Spain, Christopher Columbus, an Italian explorer, set sail in the search of India. He was certain that by sailing westwards he would find India, as the earth is round. Instead of reaching India, he reached the islands near America. So here many names as explorers, among them Amerigo Vespucci, Vasco da Gama, Ferdinand Magellan, Samuel de Champlain, Abel Janson Tasman, Captain James Cook, Louis Antony de Bougainville, Mungo Park are among them. Vasco da Gama, in the year of 1497, he was also a Portuguese seafarer, set sail with a fleet of 4 ships and 170 sailors in the search of India. He reached the eastern coast of Africa and visited a few African forts like Mombasa and Malindi. Vasco da Gama landed at the Indian port of Calicut, the Kozhikode, in 1498. He asked King Zamorin of Kozhikode for trading permission. So, the last important event of the first chapter is Industrial Revolution, and I had made already a video in detail about the Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution indicates the transition from the manual production to mechanized production. In the 18th and 19th centuries, steam powered and water powered, that is hydraulic machines, came into use for industrial production. Industrial revolution could happen only in a capitalistic economy. So, we had also come to know the capitalistic economy. A new class of capitalists came into existence who were either owners of industrial establishments or could provide capital to such establishments. To produce commodities of common use with minimum possible production cost, to pay least possible wages in order to maintain maximum profit margins are the characteristics of capitalistic economy. Private ownership of the industrial establishments, manufacturers' right to manufacture and to fix the price of the manufactured goods, also to determine the profit margins, as also the right of the consumer to buy goods of his choice, are inbuilt norms of the capitalistic economy. In England, the atmosphere was suitable for industrial revolution. Large amounts of iron ore and coal were available. So, the humid climate of England was also suitable for producing cotton yarn, and with these favorable conditions, textile industry flourished in England. At the same time, England had established their colonies in many countries. So, England could easily obtain large quantities of essential raw material at cheap rates from their colonies. So, from here that colonialism also had begun. England could also export the processed goods to the colonies and sell it there with large profit margins using their navy. The profits earned in the colonies made large amounts of capital available to the British merchants. Availability of cheap labor made it possible for them to maintain optimum level of cost. These factors giving boost to economy prepared favorable ground for the onset of industrial revolution in England. Industrial revolution, however, affected India adversely. Britishers came to India for trading purpose. East India Company came to India. It set the decline of Indian cottage industry. The textile industry in India almost came to a halt. The administrative policies of the East India Company were made to benefit the British than the Indians. Railways made it possible to transport European goods to rural areas for sale. So, it turned into monetary exploitation of the Indians. So, the last part of this chapter was economic nationalism. It was also an outcome of industrial revolution. Arresting the economic growth of rival nations along with fervently pursuing the economic growth of one's own nation became very important. So, it became important to diverse ways to put economic restrictions on the rival country. Measures such as prohibiting the import-export transactions of the other countries, levying heavy tolls on their goods, establishing colonies mainly in the Asian and African countries, if need be fighting battles with the natives of the colonies were part of the economic nationalism. So that's it for now. Till my next topic, the links had been given for my previous videos on Renaissance and Industrial Revolution. Thanks for watching. Please like it and subscribe my channel. Thank you.